You know, in any AWS environment, there's always one question that seems to pop up more than any other. What just changed? Well, today we're diving into the service that gives you the definitive answer, CloudTrail. Think of it as the ultimate source of truth for every single action taken in your account, and we're going to break down exactly how it works.
Oh yeah, we have all been there. Something breaks, an app goes down, and the frantic questions start flying. Who did what? When did they do it? And from where? These aren't just little hiccups. They're high-stakes mysteries that can bring down your entire application and cause some major security headaches.
Well, the answer to those frantic questions is something called a CloudTrail trail. It's really simple. It's just a continuous record of API calls and actions happening in your account, and it's all delivered securely to an Amazon S3 bucket. The best way to think about it, and I love this analogy, is as the black box flight recorder for your cloud. When things go wrong, this is the first place you look to find out exactly what happened.
So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll talk about why this black box is so valuable. Then, we'll walk through choosing the right scope for your trail, deciding which events you actually need to log, and we'll cover the key configurations for a really secure setup. And finally, we'll look at how you manage your trail over the long haul.
All right, let's kick things off with the big question. Why do you even need this? I mean, AWS already gives you a short-term event history, right? True. But a dedicated trail unlocks some absolutely critical capabilities for long-term security, analysis, and compliance.
Okay, this is where a trail really starts to shine. That default 90-day history? A trail gives you a permanent record for as long as you want to keep it. You can hook it into CloudWatch to create alarms for suspicious activity, which is awesome. You can even use Amazon Athena to run complex queries across years of logs to spot patterns. And, maybe most importantly, it gives you a verifiable, tamper-proof log for any security audit.
Okay, so once you're on board with creating a trail, the very first decision you have to make is about its scope. Are you just watching one specific region, or do you need the full picture of everything, everywhere?
So you've basically got two main choices. A single region trail, which, as the name implies, limits your visibility to just one location. And it's worth noting, you can only create these using the command line. The much better option, and the one that's the default in the AWS console, is a multi-region trail. This gives you that comprehensive view by recording events in all regions, including those critical global services like IAM.
And look, you don't have to take my word for it. AWS is super clear about this. The official best practice is to always create a multi-region trail. Honestly, in today's cloud world, you just can't afford the blind spots that a single region trail creates.
Now, if you're running a bigger shop with lots of different AWS accounts, you can level this up even further. An organizations trail centralizes logging for every single account in your AWS organization into one spot. This gives you the ultimate single pane of glass for security and operations across your whole company. It's a game changer.
All right, you've picked your scope. Next up, what exactly are you going to record? This is a really important balancing act between getting all the visibility you need and, managing your costs.
There are really 4 types of events to think about. Management events are your foundation. These are the actions that modify resources, like launching a server. The first copy of these is totally free. Then you have data events, which log operations on your resources, like someone uploading a file to S3. These can be super high volume, and they do have costs. Insights events use machine learning to spot weird activity. And network events track API calls through VPC endpoints, and yeah, both of those also come with charges.
Okay, here's a super important heads up. Even with those free management events, you gotta be careful. Services like AWS Key Management Service, or KMS, can generate a ton of encrypt and decrypt actions. It's often a best practice to filter those out to reduce the noise and avoid any surprise costs, especially if you have more than one trail collecting those events.
Okay, we know the scope, we know what events we want. Now let's talk about the nitty-gritty of setting it up securely from the get-go. These are the essential choices you'll make when you actually hit Create Trail. Really, it all boils down to 3 core steps. First, you pick your storage, a secure S3 bucket where your logs will live. Second, and this is non-negotiable for me, you secure those logs. You enable both KMS encryption to protect them at rest and log file validation to ensure their integrity. And third, you can optionally set up alerts with SNS to get notified when new logs are delivered.
I really want to double-click on that log file validation thing for a second because it's so important.
What this feature does is create a digital signature for your log files. It's like a tamper-proof seal. It gives you a cryptographic guarantee that the logs sitting in your S3 bucket are the exact same ones CloudTrail delivered, unaltered and undeleted. For any security audit, this is absolute gold.
Right. So creating a trail isn't a set it and forget it kind of deal. Your needs are going to change over time, and you'll need to manage that trail throughout its life. Let's take a quick look at what that involves.
You've got total control over the trail's lifecycle. You can update it anytime you want, maybe to start logging data events as your application grows. You can stop and start logging, which can be useful. And of course, you can delete the trail entirely, which removes the configuration that tells AWS to keep logging.
But I do want to talk about deleting a trail for a moment. There's a huge gotcha here that you absolutely need to know about. Listen up, this is absolutely critical. Deleting the trail only removes the configuration. It does not delete the logs themselves. All those log files that are already sitting in your S3 bucket, they stay right where they are. This is actually a feature designed to preserve your audit history, but it does mean you're still responsible for managing that data and its storage costs.
Okay, so to pull this all together, here's your quick checklist for a solid CloudTrail setup. Number 1, always use multi-region trails for complete visibility. Number 2, always enable log file validation. Seriously, just do it. 3, be really mindful of the costs when you turn on data, insights, or network events. And 4, if you're running more than one account, an organization trail is your best friend.
Look, by setting up a proper trail, you've basically just turned on the lights in a previously dark room in your AWS account. Every single action is now being recorded, secured, and validated, so the only question left is, what will you discover when you start looking at the data?